morning, Robin.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very, very well. How are you?
Okay. Keeping busy.
Excellent. Busy is good.
Yeah.
And are you out on site at properties a lot these days, or have you maintained quite a lot of doing it remotely?
I do mostly remotely. I'd probably do about one visit a month to the properties. So yeah, no, it's the thing about finance is it's mostly all computers, and funny enough these days it's all on the site, so I get a lot more done sitting at home than I do actually in a site.
I'm the same. I don't get up to our Newark office very often at all these days, but it's great to be going out to hotels again. So how many hotels do you work with now?
Well, my hotels, I've got 3 that I'm doing independent FC for, and then I've got I'm helping out a group with a project as well. So I do a bit of everything at the moment.
Variety. Hi, Clara.
Hello, guys. How are
Hi.
you?
Hi,
Okay.
Rob.
How's Barcelona?
Oh, it's good. It's so sunny. It's really good.
Well, we've got a bit of it out here.
Yeah?
I don't
No,
think
I
it's
was
as
gonna
hot.
say, like, how's it been? Because we're now getting into the nicer days, so in theory, it should be nicer.
It should be. It's
In theory, being key here. No.
still a bit chilly, even when the sun's out.
Yeah.
This is the first fresh spring morning I feel like we've had.
Nice.
We've had a couple of days which have been quite nice, but this is the first kind of morning where it's, touch wood, still sunny.
Still.
You know, English weather.
Yeah. How was I know it was last week, but how was coronation?
Amazing.
Yeah?
Oh, it
What
rained.
did you guys do anything for it?
No, not really.
No. Yeah. Some people did. Some people had little parties. Some people did nothing and just watched TV. Some people didn't even pay attention. There's been a whole range.
I watched it. That was about it. But,
Well, we've got a lot of children on the cul-de-sac that we live on, so we put out bunting and flags, and we've still got a flag flying down the bottom of the garden. And we didn't have a street party, but the kids all played out, and we just sat around in our chairs that we started using during the pandemic in 2020. We got all of these chairs from our back gardens into the street, and we'd all sit around on the street.
Oh my god.
In our little we call it the banjo, because there's a big circle at the end and then it's long and thin.
Okay.
So we just, all the old ladies from the neighbours came out and sat there with their gin and dubonnet.
I love that vibe though. I really like it.
Oh, it's lovely. It's any excuse to celebrate and get together.
Yeah. And to have a bank holiday. No, I'm joking.
Oh, absolutely. But it's all confusing now. I don't know, Robin, Kevin, Robert, were you confused about what day it was?
Yeah.
I didn't get much of a bank holiday, me. So it didn't really make that much difference.
Fine.
But yeah, it kind of does kind of knock you. It's worse when there's actually more than one as well. It's like
well, 3 in this month.
Yeah.
It was great, but yes.
Yeah. It doesn't do good for the cash flow either in the hotels, because it delays the credit cards coming through one day, and everything you expect to pay on a Wednesday suddenly
Yeah.
So Robin, have you seen much how have you seen sort of financially the impact of the bank holidays so far? Did the coronation provide a boost, or did it?
Well, yes, it did. It did provide some. I think the hotels that I've done weren't really sort of because they weren't sort of into it, as it were. But it certainly had the bank holiday in itself has created more revenue, definitely.
Yeah, definitely didn't have any more anyway. But the problem is that they've not enough staff to serve it all. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
Actually, I've got I'll provide a little link, and actually, Clara, you might have already seen it, but Cloudbeds have got a new podcast that they're doing, and it was very interesting to hear from an Italian hotelier in Florence of his staffing challenges. I'll share that link in the chat, but it was quite interesting, and then hearing from an American the same challenge, and it seems to be just this global challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people after COVID suddenly sort of like sat down and thought, well, what am I doing with my life, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Real deep, real fast.
That's what happened to you and me, Robin.
And like I say, you have to love the industry, don't you, to work to stay in it.
You have to be a bit crazy.
Yeah.
Morning, Sarah. Morning, Alex.
Morning.
Morning, Cameron.
Going back over. I'm back over there on Thursday, actually, Robin. So
is this Nigel? I see.
Yes.
How long is it since I've seen Nigel?
Mr. Robin, hi guys. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
Oh,
yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Oh, wow. I mean, I thought I'd come on and see how the real world live, you know what I mean? So, it's just, yeah. Do you know what? I always get to a Tuesday night, I always go, Gary says to me, did you pop and see Robin's meet? I go, oh no, I forgot. Yeah, you know what I mean? So happy days, yeah. Yeah. So I thought I'd come in and educate myself, guys. Happy days. How are you all doing? We okay? We all right?
Yeah, fine. Just talking about the bank holiday was busier in whether we could actually staff it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
You've got a nice coronation background with the flags and everything. I like it.
Yeah. Do you know what? This is our spare office. Yeah. It used to be my son's bedroom. Yeah. What is it? It's punk, London punk, I think, is the bit I'd use. Yeah. London's corner and all that. You know what I mean? So yeah. I must change
seasonal. It goes with the theme.
You've been saying that since COVID, like Nigel.
I know.
I have you. Me being like, is it for coronation? It's got nothing to do with coronation.
2 years later, it's one of those jobs you need to get round to. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just don't tell my wife; she'll keep nagging about it. You know what I mean? Happy days. Yeah. Cool.
Morning, Nico. Morning, Alistair.
Morning.
How are we?
Good, thank you.
Morning, Nico.
Good morning, senor.
Yeah, how are you?
Good, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just keeping up with things.
No, you're doing better than me.
Well, I said trying to keep up.
Oh,
with
don't try.
Trying being key here.
Absolutely.
Very much so.
Everyone is very punctual. I love it.
Oh, there should be a few more in, I think, but
yeah, but it's just now the time, and
yeah,
we're already getting.
We'll give it a couple more minutes.
Yeah, 100%.
Because quite a few others on the list, but Nigel, what are you up to these days? I don't mind asking.
Just come out of prison. That was okay. Yeah. Just on a stretch there. So but no, I'm working for LQ. Basically in lockdown. My ex-boss of many years ago gave me a call and said, what are you doing? So I went out and done some consultancy for them. I spent 12 months out there doing consultancy, one of our hotels down there in Ireland. And back in October I actually joined them on the board. So yeah. So yeah, it sort of keeps me busy really. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good. I think during the lockdown days, it was all doom and gloom, wasn't it? What we're going to do? Nobody knew what they're really going to do. They're going to come out of it. We're all sort of, but no, I think business is good. Yeah. We certainly base ourselves on 2019. So business is absolutely fantastic at the moment, I've got to say. We had a fantastic summer last year. We came out of winter thinking the usual dip and then back up again, but it didn't. It just carried on. So yeah, we got a small little hotel company. We've got 3 hotels, big into spa, big into one of our golf clubs down at Ufford Park. We just bought a brand new hotel, and we're just in the midst of buying another 3. So, overnight we'll double basically what we're going to do. So, but yeah, it's okay. It's all right. So, Yeah, lockdown did me good. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes.
That's the way to go.
Right. No, it's I think probably we've got. Hi, Aleem.
Hi, Robin.
How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good, good. Okay, so I think we'll oh no, somebody else coming in. Yeah, it's certainly been 2 months now since the last forum. I thought best to leave the foray of the bank holidays as they were, and not try to fit in a meeting between Easter and coronations and May bank holidays and all the rest of it, because it would
And
probably
parties.
but too many parties going on around here. Or too much work, depending on which side of the fence you're on. But yes, no, I think consensus is that actually it has helped a bit, although people have been saying that they haven't got enough people to actually service it. But now listening to people around the forum, it seems to be a worldwide phenomenon, this of not having enough people to service the business. Obviously not the right people in the right place. There's places in the world where lots of people without work, and places in the world where we can't get enough of them. So yeah, I think there needs to be a bit of global movement around. But yeah, no, yeah, everything seems to be. Now we've got another one again at the end of the month, so that'll be interesting to see how well that does. Now we've got some decent weather in the country. So but anyway, as with anything, the you only know if your business is doing well is if you actually look at it well and look at the figures, because it's not always a case. You can always sometimes be a busy fool. You can sometimes think you're busy but actually have missed opportunities, and so it's always good to find new ways of sort of analyzing the business, analyzing how your parts of your business are working, and for that we've got Clara with us today, who will give us a talk on sort of how benchmarking of websites and all that sort of thing works. So I'll hand over to you, Clara.
Thanks.
I'll just allow you to.
Yeah, this is what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
if
there
I'm
you go.
allowed, because otherwise you'll have to do the speaking for me. So
Free
depends
to
how
go.
you want this to go. Thanks so much for the introduction. Well, I know some of the people on this call, so it's nice to have a sort of an excuse to meet and to chat. What I've done for you guys, I'm not sure how many of you are sort of familiar with how you can get access to these benchmarking stats, because actually you can access them for free. But what I've done today is sort of made a presentation of basically the sorts of insights that you guys can have and how you can use them. This is obviously great because this type of call is super interactive, so please sort of feel free to shoot me down or ask any questions as I go along, rather than sort of wait until the end, because the benefit of this is that we can just talk about things and get your feedback at the same time. So let me share my screen. Just confirming that you guys will see everything. Yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect. So as Robin mentioned, today I wanted to focus, I mean, there's a few things that is a few spaces that our company comes into, but what I wanted to focus on today is how to help hoteliers or accommodation providers to better use the stats that you guys will have access to. So everyone, you know, looking after properties, dealing or consulting for different properties, you will be definitely benchmarking. You will be using some stats. A lot of the times it tends to be used only from a sort of rates and occupancy perspective, but what we've done at the Hotels Network is try to go a bit beyond that and sort of how can you benchmark more metrics of your hotel's performance, and specifically more direct metrics, because ultimately your brand's website is the most profitable channel. And once you've got this set, this is obviously the key thing. You're going to have all these stats to track your performance, see how you're doing, but what can you do to actually tackle the challenges that you might have, or to actually action on the opportunities? So these are sort of two sides of the coins that we're going to go into today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Clara. I work for a company called the Hotels Network, and I look after only the UK and Ireland. But we work with various different countries in general. And today, here's a bit of an idea of what I wanted to sort of go through. Oh, yeah, feel free if there's any questions or anything that's not clear, let me know. So I wanted to go through today, apart from an introduction of, for those of you who might not be familiar with us, I wanted to go through a bit more of why it's important and which metrics it's important to benchmark when it comes in terms of direct sales. Through this benchmarking platform that we offer, maybe you guys have heard of it. It's called Bench Direct. We actually have 19,000 hotels on the platform. So I was able to get some insights of this sort of top UK cities performance. And then, as I mentioned, what to do with these stats in order to help you grow your direct channel performance. So I'm just getting some chats through. So I'm just going to keep checking them just to make sure I'm not missing out any questions as I go along. So for those of you who might not be familiar with the Hotels Network, so just to give a bit of context, we essentially partner with hotels, apartments, accommodation providers in general to help them increase the performance of their direct channel. This slide here is usually quite useful to give a bit of context of where we stand within the hotel tech stack, meaning that we're not replacing anything that you currently have. We're not replacing your PMS. We're not replacing your booking engine or your website. We actually sit on top of all of these things to make sure that we help you increase the performance of these players. And how do we do that? And that's what we're going to focus on today. There's two sides of helping you grow the performance of your direct channel. First is, as Robin mentioned, understanding the data, understanding where you stand, and we actually provide this data to accommodation providers. And then the second side is, once you have this data, how do you go about actioning it? And we do that through personalization, similar to, you'll all know how Netflix recommends you shows based on what you've watched before. If you've watched more scary movies, rom-coms, all of the things, it will recommend you similar types of shows or movies. We basically do the same, but for hotel websites, and we'll go into that into that more a bit later. Just to give a bit of context about the company, so as I mentioned, we're now working with 19,000 hotels, which is super exciting, but the team is still relatively small. And yeah, I'm going to take you through some examples, so maybe you'll recognize some of the UK brands we're working with. So the reason I wanted to focus especially with the audience that we have attending this webinar, some of the concerns that we hear from hoteliers is you might have a lot of insights about how your direct website might be performing, but sometimes it can be a bit difficult to put that into perspective and seeing, okay, you might have a good understanding of what is your conversion rate on the website, but actually, is it a good conversion rate if you compare to your competitors or not? Or where do you stand in that regard? Or in terms of understanding, the traffic that you're driving to your website or your booking engine, are you doing a good job at doing that? How does that compare to your peers? Another super interesting one, especially for the more revenue or reception sort of roles that might be tuning into this webinar, is understanding your OTA disparities. If you're struggling with Booking.com or Agoda, most likely offering lower rates than yours, is this something that's only happening for you, or is it also happening for the hotels that you compare yourself with? And last but not least, of course, when people come onto your website, where might you be losing them in the booking process? And this is where we've detected a huge opportunity for hotels. Why? On average, the hotels that we work with, this is what you see on the screen here. On average, the hotels we work with convert at a 2% rate on their website. What that means is, out of 100 people that might come to hotelclara.co.uk, only 2 of them book. And 98 of them end up leaving. This is a huge opportunity. Why? Because if you only increase that number to 3%, which is not needed through so much work, you're actually able to generate up to 50% uplift in revenue. So the opportunity from just slight tweaks and just understanding ever so slightly bit better where your performance stands will allow you to achieve great things when it comes to your website performance. So this, I recently held another talk, and people loved understanding where the cities that they're based in perform. So we're going to go through that just now. The platform that we're using is called Bench Direct. I think some in the webinar will be familiar with the platform, maybe not everyone. This is a benchmarking platform that everyone has access to for free. And what the platform compares is, as you see here, 30 metrics, including your website performance, your booking engine performance, your rates and disparities performance, the profile of your visitors, your demand, or your length of stay. So it takes into account quite a few metrics related to the direct website only. And what we do is that we compare the performance of your property or your properties, if you're dealing with a brand, in these specific metrics to a bunch of comp sets that you see here. So proximity are hotels of the same star rating in the area that you're located in. You also have the option to choose these comp set yourself. And then one that I really like is another comp set called the THN network, which stands for our company, the Hotels Network. And this is essentially a comp set where we match you with similar properties in terms of size, in terms of rate levels and traffic volume. So rather than only looking at your neighbors, at your location, essentially, sometimes it's a bit more interesting to compare yourself to lookalike properties, but even if they're not in the same area. So for example, if you're, I don't know, a property in the Cotswolds, maybe you're interested in seeing how Cornwall is doing, or the New Forest, for example, which are also sort of destination within England, and that might be more interesting to you depending on the type of property that you are. So let's get right into it. This is a screenshot of what Bench Direct looks like. So all hoteliers would have access to this data. Here we're looking at the conversion metric. So again, we're focusing on the conversion of the direct website. And what you see here, hotels always see which time frame they're looking at. So you have the option of changing that. Similar to Google Analytics, you have the option of comparing to a period in the past. And then you also have always the option of adding all these cross filters that you see here. So by stay dates in the future, by location, by device, by source of traffic. So you can really go into the deep end, sort of be nitty gritty with it. The key focus of Bench Direct, as I mentioned at the beginning, is to not only look at your bookers, your rates, your occupancy, which most hoteliers, especially across the UK, will already be doing a great job at. The platform will help you understand a bit better your whole visitor journey. With that in mind, for example, if we look at conversion, you're able to, of course, look at the total conversion of your website, but you can dig deeper and go into the visitor to booking engine conversion, meaning the people, out of the people who land on your homepage, how many of them actually make a search in your booking engine? And then in this tab here, out of the people who make a search in your booking engine, regardless of the booking engine you're using, by the way, how many of them actually end up performing a booking? And this is really with this idea of understanding which step of the booking funnel you should be focusing on more, and which step of the booking funnel has the opportunity, the potential to bring you more opportunity and more revenue. And here we're looking at the stats of basically key cities across the UK. And we're looking at their overall conversion. So you see here, actually, Manchester and Birmingham properties, on average, we're looking at the last year, are converting a bit better than the other cities that you see on this graph. If we move on to another metric, this is a super interesting one because it's sometimes difficult to get these insights in other platforms, especially from a benchmarking perspective. This is the length of stay metric. Here, what you'll see, there's two sides to it. The one on the left-hand side being what's actually booked in terms of length of stay, and the right-hand side, what's being searched for. So what we provide hotels with these insights is essentially understanding more, are people searching as many nights as they end up booking for or not? What you see on this graph is that London and Bristol have the longest length of stay booked, so around 3 nights, essentially. But what's even more interesting to spot is that for Bristol, people are actually searching for 1 night more than they end up booking for. Again, this is the focus of this platform, of understanding if you're really responding well to what your audience is actually interested in. Another one of the other metrics that we have available in Bench Direct is around OTA disparities. This will resonate with, I'm sure, a lot of people here. What we track here is essentially when your property or your properties are being offered a lower rate on a third-party site. And this is the insights that you see here. So frequency will be, how often is your rate cheaper somewhere else? And when it is cheaper somewhere else, roughly, what is the price difference, essentially? Again, not with the idea to stop working with any of these OTAs, but just understanding a bit better from the direct channel perspective, understanding a bit better where you stand. And you see here, again, we have these stats for these cities. So how you read this data is essentially from Manchester and Birmingham, which were by the way, the destinations that were converting the best. Actually, this is also the destinations where we see the most disparities taking place, but actually in terms of amount. So what is the price difference that, let's say, booking.com or Expedia offer? Manchester is actually the lowest, and the price offered on these third-party websites tends to be around 7% cheaper than the direct site. This is obviously, I'm sure the question will come up, especially for people looking after rates. This is obviously not taking into account any Genius or any other sort of membership program, because what we want to give you guys access to is a comparison for like rates. So non-membership to non-membership rates. So these are, we've only gone through 3 of the 30 metrics that you have access to, but the idea was first to give you an understanding of where certain cities, depending on where your properties are, how certain cities are performing, but also with the key being of why do we focus so much on understanding what could have happened and how, again, as I mentioned before, whether it's through Bench Direct or other sources of data that you guys have, sometimes we have sort of endless sources of data. But the idea is to use it, because otherwise, if you just have access to a lot of data, you need to, in some shape or form, bring it into action on your direct website or the other things that you're running across property. And this is where personalization for the website comes in. So when you start spotting trends on Bench Direct of missed opportunities or stuff where you might be slightly behind your comp sets, or for example, if we take the Bristol example, if you spot that people are actually searching for 4 nights, but they end up booking 2.9, what can I do on my website, on my user experience, to make sure that these people who search for 3 nights actually end up booking that 4th? What can I do? And this comes through personalization. And
Hi,
instead of,
Clara.
tell me.
Just sorry, Alex has got a hand up.
I
before
can't
you-
actually see that. So you tell me when people, I can't actually, unless it's a chat, I can't actually see that. Go on, go for it, Alex. Sorry.
That's all right. It's just a question to 2 slides back. Sorry to take everybody back.
No, I couldn't see your hand up. Otherwise, I would have.
That's all right. So with the disparity and with the discount, I know we're not talking about member rates or anything like that, but obviously there's a huge drive by the OTAs to push properties to offer mobile discounts. Because I come at you with all the stats of, yes, 80% of bookings are happening on mobile, which is a separate topic altogether anyway. But do you think that's also what's being captured there as to how many people are participating in those programs? Because they sit roughly around the 10-15% mark.
Great question. So this is obviously different than maybe a membership program or a Genius. So it's great that you're asking, because yes, that would be taken into account. How you can understand this a bit better is you see in the filters that you can add here, you can actually filter by device. So even when you're looking at OTA disparities, you could even narrow that to mobile OTA disparities and see how this frequency and this amount changes. And so that will help you understand if, okay, are my disparities mostly coming from mobile and therefore most likely coming from mobile discounts, for example. So this will, adding these filters in general, whether it's for this great example that you mentioned or other things, allow you to understand a bit better what might be causing this potential issue.
Excellent.
Does that help?
Yeah, thank you, Clara.
Anyone else that rose their hand and I've just been ignoring? Robin, you can just tell me if someone is waiting to speak, because I actually can't see this when I'm sharing my screen.
I just managed to catch Alex. So I thought I'd
Thanks. Perfect. So what I wanted to do is essentially, rather than explaining how personalization works, I wanted to go through some examples of how to tackle this on your website based on basically the 5 most common challenges that we see for hotels. First challenge being, how do I improve my homepage conversion? Again, homepage conversion is the moment people get on hotelclara.co.uk to the moment where they actually make a search in my booking engine. You can use personalization to help you do that. This is an example. Actually, I really love this example from the Grove of Narberth. And essentially, how they've decided to help drive more people into their booking engine is by using personalization on their homepage. What have they done? When when return visitors come onto their website, meaning people who have been on their website before, so not their first-time visitors, we can detect that. And they've decided to welcome them differently than their first-time visitors. And this is what this is a screenshot that you see here. So anyone who's coming to their website and they've been there before, they will see this message that you see on the left-hand side saying, hey, a special treat from us. Did you know that if you sign up to our newsletter, you can get a 15% discount? This is great because it helps them grow their marketing database. For some properties, this is hugely important, especially when you have different sort of aspects of your properties. But also, it's really useful to just read when people leave their email and click on join and apply discount, it redirects them automatically into the booking engine step. So it does a great job at pushing this homepage conversion. And what you see here, I've obviously attached some stats to it. I'm sure the presentation will be shared. In 2 months, they collected almost 70 emails. And we use obviously Bench Direct to track if that has generated an uplift in their homepage conversion, which it did by 18%. So again, it's kind of like a loop. You decide what you should action on based on the stats. You action it on your website, and then you go back to the stats to see if it's had the impact that you wanted it to have. So this is in terms of homepage conversion. Next step, obviously, is the booking engine conversion. So once people have made a search for dates, how do I go about making sure that they book? And there's 2 ways here. And for those of you that might have heard about the hotels network before, maybe this is what you will have seen the most because it's actually the first thing that was created by the company. We call that a price comparison. So we essentially compare the cheapest rate that you have on your website to the cheapest rates that are available on the OTAs. Why? To provide that extra reassurance to your users that they shouldn't leave your website to browse because all the information is there and you're the best rate that they could look at getting. And then the second thing that you can implement in order to help you increase the number of people who actually make a booking is what we call exit messages. All of you here have seen those before. These are messages that get triggered when you move your mouse over the URL, typically indicating that you're going to close the tab. And these do a great job. You've probably seen them on Booking.com, Expedia, and you've wanted to close them because they've bothered you. This is doing a great job at retaining people on the page, essentially, and making sure that with XYZ content that you provide to them, making sure that it will make them want to carry on with their booking. And here again, sort of running strategies like this with Nordic Choice allowed them to increase their booking engine conversion by 30%. Adding on to that, for the properties maybe in this webinar that might be struggling slightly with OTA disparities, you can activate what we call a price matching capability, which means that if we detect that your price is lower on an OTA, you have the ability to match that in real time. And this is what you see here. The price was higher than the other OTAs offered, and it's automatically crossed out with a new price offered. I think I'm hearing someone in the audience. If someone wants to speak. Perfect. Tell me.
Clara, just me again. Sorry, hang on. Let me start.
No, don't apologize, please.
One of the questions there is, and I suppose it's also for the attendees, we know this happens, right? So how many properties actually empower their front desk teams and reservation teams to then actively discount, and what process are they following now? Because having it on one screen is absolutely fantastic, and this is putting it in the guest onus, right? But when it happens through voice or anything else, how many people are reacting to it?
Is that a question for me or the audience? Because I think the audience will be better.
I think yeah.
Not many.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want
It's a shame.
You get hotels where you go. Sorry. You get hotels where you go there and you actually say to them, look, I know it's cheaper on booking.com, give me 10% discount. And they say, oh, no, sorry, I can't because the owner won't let me do it. So you think, okay, I'll go somewhere else then.
On top of it, yeah. And it's crazy. Absolutely frustrates the hell out of me.
Okay, carry on, Clara.
It's all about team training at the end of the day. But it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Having something like this activated, the idea is also to not have this conversation that you just mentioned, Robin, is because, well, if there is a cheaper price on booking.com, well, the person will see it there and then. So that whole conversation, frustrating conversation, if I might add, doesn't happen because the discount is being offered there and then. Having said that, if I perform that same search, let's say 2 days later, your hotel's rate might have changed, booking.com's rate might have changed. So this is also reflected in real time, meaning that if after these changes, you are now the cheapest price, regardless of any discount, then the discount won't apply. It really only applies for that specific search if the system detects that you are being undercut somewhere else. So that's kind of a benefit as well, is that you or your team, you don't have to discount all of the searches. You only discount when you detect that there's a cheaper price somewhere else. But yeah, great question, because team training obviously goes a really long way in order to support that. And then obviously you touched upon mobile, so it's great that I've included this example here. A lot of the challenges for hotels is that they want to increase their conversion on mobile. Some of the resources that are being offered to them is doing that through booking.com. But actually what we strongly recommend is to use personalization to do that on your own website. How can you go about doing that? This is an example of a property that we're working with in London, and I love this example. Essentially, these two messages that you see at the bottom of the screen, these are exclusive to mobile devices, meaning if I come on my desktop, I will not see this. And you're essentially replicating what booking.com is doing, but for your direct mobile website. Why do we have these two messages? Again, apart from mobile personalization, we're using first time and return visitor personalization. If I'm coming on my mobile device to your property site for the first time, I will see this message on the left-hand side. Congratulations. Did you know that if you book within the next 5 minutes, you will get 20% off? If for XYZ reason I don't book, I don't perform my booking, and I come back to the site, we detect that the person's been there before. And so the message changes slightly, and it's around sort of pushing urgency. Hey, it's your lucky day. We noticed you couldn't book before, but make sure to do it now because we've just extended the offer. Between us and the hotelier, we know the discount is there. That's not changed, but actually changing this communication and how you speak to the user, depending on this trigger, you guys won't be surprised. The uptake on this second message is actually huge, because it's influencing people's behavior and telling them, hey, this is now or never, you're not going to get this discount. So the idea is for them to book through this. It's replicating what hotels might be doing on booking.com, but for your own website, which is obviously the most profitable channel. And then last example that I get a lot in terms of challenges is how to improve your shoulder nights occupancy. Whether you're city center, maybe a bit more remote, these shoulder nights might be a bit different. It tends to be roughly around the Sunday and Monday, but this can of course change. You have the ability to use personalization to help you grow these specific nights that you're wanting to push. This is an example of a property that we're working with in Stockholm, where essentially this message that appears in their booking engine only shows when someone has searched from Saturday to Sunday. What does it do? Well, essentially, this hotel wants to push their Friday and their Monday night. So only for those people that have performed the relevant search will they see this message. Hey, did you know that if you add Friday night to your search, you will actually get 25% off? And that goes a really long way into people actually considering to add an extra night to their stay. But if you don't make that information obvious and available to them at the time of their search, people don't go around browsing offers and browsing the differences between one night or 2 nights. But by using personalization and this is key, at the moment that is relevant for their search, because if I'm searching from Monday to Tuesday, knowing to add my Monday night, it's not relevant anymore. So you're really showing it to the people it will make sense to in order for the uptake of this offer to increase, essentially, and you're showing it at the right time. And here, since this property's launched this message, they saw, and again, we go back to the length of stay metric in Bench Direct, and they saw an increase in their search length of stay of 22%. Between running this message and not having it active. And mostly they saw an increase of booked length of stay by 46%. So again, it's this full circle of going back to the data to check if it's performed. And that's actually, well, I've already done my conclusion. That's exactly what we want to do. So the reason we provide these stats to all hoteliers and accommodation providers is because we want to enable them to have all the data that they need in order to make their decisions, whether it be for their direct website or other sort of strategic decision for the properties. We strongly recommend to do it in a loop. So you identify quick wins through the Bench Direct or any other stats that you might be using. these quick wins you can then use to segment basically your audience and provide a personalized experience on your website. And then you go back to the data to make sure that it's working and affecting the metric. If you're doing a length of stay based kind of offer or messaging, then you will go back to the length of stay metric. If you decide to activate price matching, then you can go ahead and start tracking how OTA disparities are changing. So it's really about this going back and forth to essentially track if the changes or the tweaks that you're making are having the impact that you would like them to have. So I'm a bit of a data geek, so this is definitely something I would recommend. I've put a little, this is purely for the people who maybe don't have access to it yet. If you scan this little QR code, you can actually just request your account for free. So I'll just leave it for a sec if people wanted to scan it. And that's kind of it. I was trying to keep it short to sort of actionable tips. So hopefully it was useful for people who connected. But obviously, if there's any questions or topics for debate, let's do it.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I suppose for me, it always goes back to the same starter question I have. When was the last time somebody made a booking on their own website? And if that was successful, that's great. And how does that compare to when you book through mobile on your website? And that's where I see huge disparity with a lot of the clients I speak to. I know we've got somebody from Talk on as well. And it's just staggering how we still keep going back in that loop, as Clara mentioned, you know, but what are we actually looking at and what are we doing about it?
Yeah. It's putting yourself in your guest shoes, really.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's for all, whether it's like personalization or just all the decisions you're making for your website, like which provider you might be using for your booking engine or which agency is designing your website. You always, yeah, exactly as you said, you always have to have that in mind. Because I completely agree. Sometimes you try it yourself and you're like, oh, this is so difficult. And if you're thinking this when it's your own website, people who actually don't know your website, is completely different.
Yep.
I think
Clara, it's Nigel. Just from our point of view, we always basically, with our sales and marketing team, it's always, I guess it's, you know, the bottomless pit of money. Yeah. And we know what our open rates, we know our conversion rates. You mentioned 2% there, but I guess what we're always asking for is what is the industry bench? Is there a way of finding that out, or is there how can you find out?
When you say industry, do you mean the city you're in? Do you mean?
Yeah, but basically what we're looking for is we know what our competitive set is. Yeah.
Yep.
What are we actually doing in the city and what are we doing in our area? Yeah. Is what we're always asking. Yeah. Is that easily available, or is that?
Yeah. So this is exactly these two slides. This is exactly what you will get in the com sets that you will get in. Sorry, let me just quickly browse back. This is exactly the com sets so obviously I showed you here sort of city compared to other cities, but from a hotel's perspective or a brand's perspective, obviously your com sets will be slightly different. And this is exactly what you'll mention. So you'll get property level analysis compared to, you mentioned the few other properties and the double of properties that you're going to have soon. So compared to the rest of the group. Okay. And then you have access to exactly hotels in your area. So as you mentioned, this industry benchmark, okay, what is that specific property? How are they doing compared to the location that they're in? And obviously I imagine your properties will be in different locations. So every time you go from one property to another, this location changes to reflect the location of that property.
And this will, I think this will tie in with basically our PMS, which is guest line, and our CRM, which is airship,
So it ties, you mean from a data standpoint? So for this platform, we actually don't need to connect with your CRM to provide you with this data. We connect with your website and your booking engine.
Oh wow!
And that's it. I don't know. Maybe are you familiar with sort of how Google Analytics is set up? It's the same. Exactly. It's the same. It's
Google Maps. Yeah, that's where we get our data from at the moment. Great. We always still get asked the question, you know, is what is the bench? You know, how well are we doing? You know, click rates through the open rates with our e-flyers and our e-shots are basically 48%. We know our click through rate is 23%.
Yeah.
That good? Is that bad? Where are we up
exactly
to? You know, how are we doing, guys?
Yeah. Are we happy? Are we not?
Where do you want your next pot of money to come from? You
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is why
I'll
this
spend
is
that money in the
great.
right places. Yeah.
Because it can help you because you have this benchmarking standpoint, then it makes it easier for you to decide where you should invest your resources, essentially,
Cool.
depending on which metric or depending on how you're performing. And it might even change from one property to the other. And that's, of course, important to know that. So no, definitely it's all in there.
Clara,
Yes.
something that Guestline have just recently, well, not that recently, but they've introduced is that they can get their hotels to appear on the Google bar on the right hand side. So normally when you go to book, you get the website of the hotel somewhere on the list down of the actual sites you can visit, and then you get all the OTAs on the right hand side saying what their prices are. Now Guestline have recently introduced an option whereby you can get your hotel website can appear there.
In this box on the right hand side.
Yeah, on the right hand side with the OTA prices, so that they can actually see the comparison directly. Would the benchmarking be able to somehow identify whether something like that was actually increasing the flow through
traffic
to the website
or
and stuff?
So one of the metrics that you can track, obviously we've only covered some today, but one of the metrics that hotels have access to in Bench Direct is understanding which source of traffic is their traffic coming from. So whether it's, as you mentioned, Google Hotel Ads, whether it's organic search, just literally people typing your property's name, whether it's Facebook. So we track which source are people coming from, and also if that source is converting or not. And again, you have this data, but you also have still this benchmarking standpoint. So yes is the answer, basically. So you would be able to track the difference of conversion depending on which source people are coming from.
Okay. I get Daniel. No, I think it's about £50 a month or something like that. To your comment
funny.
about it being expensive if they do it.
It's probably £50 a month, but £7 to set up.
No, they just log you on. They just connect it in. I think they must have some kind of special deal with Google. So
we've done that ourselves with our third-party online guy that we use, and we're already live like that without going through those links. We use our Google account to do it, and it's quite good.
Yeah, and I was just trying to know whether that's trackable data as a separate.
How we track the traffic source, it's simple. It's just because they come from a different URL. So that's how we're able to track that the source is different.
I take it you can track all Google Maps and stuff like that, can you? Yeah. All those
Say that again, sorry.
I take you can track Google Maps and all that sort of stuff, can you?
Like people who have searched like hotels in London on maps and then they found your property. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's just interesting.
Great questions. Great questions.
Yeah. Cool.
Anyone else?
I noticed a lot of the presentation was sort of like on cities and things. Does it have the same impact on more sort of like countryside destinations and seaside destinations and all that? It's something that's applicable to any kind of hotel, really. Yeah.
What you the Bench Direct platform?
Yeah.
The data.
Data and
Yeah. Obviously, when I'm giving sort of destination data, it makes it easier to group it by city. But when I don't know, if a hotel in the Lake District on boards, then they will obviously see other Lake District properties. They won't be connected to like Manchester because that's not very relevant to them. So every time a hotel on boards, the comp sets that they see are the ones that make sense based on their location. Great. Yeah. Of course. So,
for example, taking that into account, for example, would there be a way, if somebody just went lakeside hotels, would there be a way of sort of kind of almost finding out how many people end up booking just because they look at lakeside hotels and they don't really, and that sort of thing?
You mean they type lakeside hotels in Google?
Yeah.
And see. Right. Great question.
Because a lot of people in these rural type places, they don't. I mean, it's all right to say, sort of looking at Bristol, Manchester, etc. But a lot of people almost go sort of lakeside hotels or South Wales hotels or Pembrokeshire hotels sort of thing. And it's how you've managed to capture their attention from such a wide
a wide search. Yeah, this is when traffic sort of what traffic acquisition partners you use become important, because for these wide searches you want to make sure that you're sort of at the top. You know, if people search lakeside hotels, yes, a broad search, but you need to identify these keywords in order to make sure that's that you come up at a good position, because as you say, the wider the search, the more competitive it is for you to be recognized. I saw a question from Kat. Do you also measure, again, similar style of properties, i.e. properties that are similar but in different places? Yep, this is the THN concept. It's exactly that. Great, I'm loving it. Yeah. It's more, regardless of the destination, it's more lookalike properties. Same number of rooms, same property type, same traffic levels. Yeah, it's lookalike properties, so exactly what you ask.
So we see that as really effective. And full disclosure, THN are a partner of Hoteliers. We know you and love you already, and we see it being really effective for the hotels where their competition isn't necessarily in a geographical closeness to them. You know, a property in Aviemore may be competing against a property in the Lake District because somebody is looking for a particular experience, a particular style of holiday, but not necessarily geographically bound. So we find it quite useful for that.
That was easy. No, I'm joking.
Anybody else got any questions, comments, feedback?
Oh, just one for myself. I mean, we talked about accommodation today. Do they also do it for things like spas and golf and stuff like that? Or is it just purely accommodation?
The data tracking?
Yes.
Yeah, at the moment, it's accommodation.
Pure accommodation. Okay. Yeah. If anybody knows anything that tracks spas and golf, yeah, please let me know, because it's hard to find. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Difficult.
I just thought that was really insightful. Thank you, Clara, and some good stats there on, you know, how those personalised messages can really make a big difference quite quickly, which I found really useful.
Oh, I'm glad.
Okay. Anybody got any other conversation or points, anything that's happened in the world recently that need to mention, or are we
Christmas is looking good, Robin? Christmas is looking okay. Yeah. Roche has been put to bed. Happy days. Yeah. Ricky back out in September. Yeah, but it's looking good this year. It's looking good.
So it always kind of confuses me. Like, we're talking about Christmas in East.
We just had Christmas pudding this week. You know what I mean? So yeah, the sun's gonna be blazing, 30 degrees. It's Christmas pudding. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, bonkers.
How's everyone's winters been?
To be honest, Daniel, we went through the summer.
How's everyone's?
Sorry, mate.
We
went through the summer, absolutely. We benched ourselves against 2019. So the summer for us, probably the same as everybody else, was fantastic. It really was. Yeah. And then for us, basically, October sort of dips, and then basically into Christmas, we're up again. But January, February is the one for us, really. And that tells us what the year's going to do. We came out the summer into the winter thinking, you know, it's all going to slow down. Yeah, we'll have a seasonal sort of staffing levels. And it didn't stop. Yeah, it went straight through to Christmas. So we thought, great, happy days. I've been on the books for January, February was okay, wasn't bad. But January and February came in. Yeah. So, you know, we carried on straight the way through. It hasn't dipped. Yeah. And our summer's looking okay. I say towards the back end of this year is looking okay as well. So we can't grumble. We haven't seen that dip. I mean, we've got the same problems as everybody else. We've got food cost. We've got staffing shortages. We've got the usual, you know, utility bills. But business-wise, on the top level, yeah, absolutely good. Yeah.
So your hotels are kind of weekend break type.
Yeah, we're commercial. We're commercial midweek. Then towards the weekend, yeah, we're big in spa. We've got golf courses. Yeah, Rufford Park. but yeah, I mean, you know, it's just even our golf. I just mentioned golf there. You know, we've got 2-tier golf range, 18-hole golf course, 12 months a year, and that hasn't stopped either. It's amazing. It's just, you know, we thought, you know, it's like the winter, the drainage on the course. You know, we thought we'd stop, but just carried on. So yeah, business is good. Business is okay.
We've experienced exactly the same. We've been going back to our 2018-19 as a comparison, because we know it's just the COVID demand was just so high. You know, we're tracking 10% ahead of budget. You know, food inflation has gone up, but our chef's tracking 1% under his food GP. You know, we're having such a great time, and that's just purely driven by sales. You know, the sales that we're going through. We're ahead on budget occupancy. We're ahead on budget. Average room rate is shot through the roof, £20-30 ahead of where it should be. So we're experiencing the busiest. We made a profit in March, first time ever.
The only thing we have seen is our weddings. Our weddings are smaller. Yeah. So before, when you used to have that sort of, you know, 120 in the day, and then basically, you know, big buffet on the night, and, you know, we've sort of seen that those two things come together, and the numbers are basically dropping because of the cash price, obviously, because the, you know, cost of living. But only about 30 or 40 people now in the day. Yeah. You know, but they're spending more, yeah, on those smaller numbers, if you know what I mean. So
I think we're experiencing the same phenomenon that I saw happen after the 2008 crash, is that the people who are traveling have more money to spend. So those places that are more sort of weekend break, luxury break type place are getting a lot more business, whereas the places that rely on the lower scale market are actually not doing so well, because there's not the people around to who can actually afford that extra bit of cash at the weekend, or to go on some kind of coaching break or all that sort of thing. So from the hotels I work with, it's definitely a story of two different businesses. The businesses that are more catering for the higher end of the market and or mid-range sort of thing are doing slightly better, and the ones that are creating for the lower end of the market are actually suffering quite a bit, as far as I can see from the hotels that I work with. I don't know if anybody else has seen that, but because your hotels that you're talking about are more to sort of that sort of medium high range sort of market, whereas my experience with other hotels that are sort of like your typical coaching type places and like seaside resorts and all that sort of thing, I've had pretty bad from what I've seen, but it may just be some of the hotels I work with, but from what I've seen in the business, it seems to be that way.
I think from our point of view, Robin, from business point of view, we've had to put our prices up. Yeah. Okay. We've got, you know, food costs going up. You know, we can't afford to basically, you know, we've got food cost increase around about 15-20%. Our utilities basically doubled overnight. Yeah. Our staffing basically short supply, so we're paying our staff a lot more and looking after them better, I must say. But you know, that disposable income we thought wasn't going to be there. Yeah. Especially for our spa business, you know, where you're paying sort of, you know, £99 a treatment. We've had to put that up. Yeah. And we thought, oh my gosh, you know, from a sales point of view, I remember sitting in one meeting going, guys, what's the strategy? Where are we going? What are we doing? We're in a cash crisis, and you're going to put your prices up. Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. We can't suck up the margins anymore. But that strategy has worked. It really has. Yeah. I think the disposable income is there. But certainly from a higher perspective. And you know, if you think about putting your price up, you've got to, guys, yeah, you cannot afford to be busy fools anymore and sucking in those margins. You can't do it. You'll go bust. Yeah, you know, it just can't happen, you know. So, but yeah, it's a difficult one out there, guys. It's tough, isn't it? Yeah.
I'd agree with what you've said there, Nigel, and also what Robin said. So I'm a consultant. I work with a range of hospitality and food and drink clients across the country. And I'd say definitely on the leisure and the mixed sort of experience where there's an activity, food and drink spa, people are still making, you know, time, and they're willing to spend the money on that kind of holistic treatment, perhaps cutting down a bit on spending money on meals, and that kind of thing. I've worked with quite a few clients recently. Obviously, as you say, food costs and the you know, energy costs can often, you know, negate any of their profit margins. So I have been really successful at saving loads of money on merchant services, which has really helped. So just working with like an independent body that can analyse all the offers, I've been saving of 35–40% for people. So that's really helped, because obviously everything is very challenged at the moment.
Yeah, I think from a supply point of view, you really need to look at your suppliers, don't you? Yeah, you know, from your paper supplier through to your food and beverage supplier, through to your liquor supplier, and even down to utilities these days. Obviously, utilities coming down. Yeah, there's some big savings to be made, but you've got to go out there and, you know, look at it. But from a business point of view, where we've sort of stole the march here, we've had to work a little bit harder. And it's more experience based these days rather than, you know, just your normal hotel stay. Yeah, so our spa manager will basically put on spa classes through Temple Spa. You know, our food and beverage manager will put on gin classes, cooking classes with the chef, but we've had to work harder to basically make those experiences more inclusive. Yeah, so that's the way it's worked for us, and those are working very, very well. Yeah.
So has that almost resulted in a positive displacement of that lower revenue generating base? And because you're now offering experiences, you've elevated that guest base?
Yeah, I think when we looked at it, we could have just gone down the normal route of basically, you know, going to booking.com and putting it all through there and God knows what, you know. But we actually went out and worked with our local suppliers. So it was our, for example, down at Hayden Islands, a great rum supplier there. We've got a distillery. We tied in basically an overnight stay, go to the distillery, come back, do the bike trail, etc., etc. So now it's become an experience rather than just stopping at the hotel. Yeah, and of course we make money out of those experiences as well. But it's become like a nice weekend. I think going back to Clara's, you know, that 3 or 4 days. Yeah, but you've got to build an experience in to basically make it a package. Yeah, so it's the experiences that basically are making it at the moment rather than just the overnight stays.
And making it partnership led, I suppose, is a key
Yeah.
advantage there, because
Yeah.
it does allow you to save and maybe cost experiences.
Yes, I think commercially operators these days have to be more astute. Yeah, you have to be more commercially astute, basically what you're doing and how you're offering it. Yeah, otherwise your costs will just consume you very, very quickly. If you're not clever at what you're doing, yeah, those food costs, and if you're not putting your price up and looking at it and, you know, regenerate your menus and doing your audience there, are basically looking at, you know, all your clients and putting the best bang for your buck. You'll soon get consumed by the cost. Yeah, that's why, you know, was it 1 in 8 something went bust last year to Hotel UK? But yeah, it's tough. It is tough. Yeah, it's not easy.
Can I ask, are hoteliers reducing their F&B offering in terms of maybe opening hours and also limiting menu offering in order to improve GOP? And the second question would be, how's the commercial demand paying up with the Maybank holidays?
It's a difficult one, Philip, but I can answer this one for you. People are reducing their hours, you're quite right, reducing their days because they can't get the staff. Yeah. And certainly the food costs have certainly kicked in. Yeah. And I know some restaurants, I live just outside Birmingham. Even some of our restaurants in Birmingham are shutting basically midweek, lunchtimes. Yeah. And reducing their menu drastically to try and get the customers in. I think from that point of view, you really are cutting your customers' experience. Yeah. So as soon as you're into that, you're into a spiral, really. I think going back to Sarah's point, when you're re-engineering your menus, yeah, you know, and doing that exercise where quite clearly, you know, you pushing your product out there for the best bang for your buck is where you should be, and not reducing your actual customer's experience, the customer journey. Once you're into that, you're into, does the hotel run, does it close, when's it open, when's it close? You know, it's a difficult one, but it gets for the staffing. It's absolutely awful out there at the moment. It really is. Yeah, I understand why they do it.
I think people have put their prices up, and I've seen a lot of, you know, social media messaging from restaurants explaining to customers why they've had to put the prices up. And I you know, just from people who I work with, I don't think they've seen the level of trade fall, but obviously they're probably at the higher end, and the people who are less affected by the cost of living crisis. I think there is a broad understanding and acceptance amongst consumers that, you know, prices have gone up. They see it in their own shopping basket. So for those lucky people who are not, you know, being squeezed too harshly, they're still willing to pay more to go out. But I think, you know, at the lower end, where you feed your family, you know, just during the week, and so you've got to give your takeaways or your treat meal out a miss, then it's a very different, you know, message. But I think now, as the heating's gone off, people have got a little bit more disposable income because they're not paying the same energy prices, at least for the summertime.
I think you're quite right, Sue. I think people with the rate of inflation hasn't come down as fast as what it should have done. Yeah, let's face it. Yeah, which hasn't helped. But I think you're quite right there. So people go to their supermarkets and see that quite clearly. We can all see it in our shopping basket. Yeah, 25% basically with Asda, 17% at Sainsbury's. I think Waitrose was something like on the index, something like 14%. Yeah, increase. We can all see that pizza that usually was £3.50 is now a £5.50. Yeah, £6.50 a pizza. And people expect it. So that's we didn't get a backlash, to be honest. Even when we put our prices up, people still came and they understood. The only thing they wanted though was the same, if not better, service. Yeah. If you basically cut it, if you basically put your prices up, you've got to then exactly what I was talking about there is create the experience. Yeah, so you added value rather than basically taking away the customer experience. Yeah,
and have your
I think you're right, Nigel.
Yeah. Sorry, Daniel.
Have your
please, Alex, go.
increased?
Sorry, Alex.
Paying your staff more, and
we've had to. Yeah, we've had to. I mean, chefs are like hen's teeth, that. Yeah. Okay. If you get a good chef, look after him. Yeah. Put him in gold. Yeah. Give him a sword and stick him on a throne. Yeah. Whatever you want, chef, you can have. They're like gold. Hen's teeth. I'm lucky we've got 3 head chefs, and that's because we know them very, very well. We look after them. We do look after them. Yeah. The staffing underneath them. Yeah. The minimum wage has gone up. It has. Yeah. Living wage we pay above, and we've had to. Yeah. Big bust ups in boardrooms. Oh my God, we can't afford it. Yeah, we can't afford not to. Is the simple situation. Yeah, and extra benefits as well, such as Bupa and stuff like that. All add to our HR experience. But yes, it's cost us a little bit of money in the business. Yes, it has. But we haven't got recruitment costs and stuff like that. And we still use an agency. We are. Yeah, it costs a fortune. It drives me mental every week. But yeah, we had to. Yeah.
And has it resulted in higher guest satisfaction scores? As a direct translation,
I can answer that one. Yes, it has. Yeah, we use HGEM. I'm not the salesman for HGEM. We're going to use HGEM. They're absolutely brilliant. If you benchmark and stuff like that on your guest experience, we can see it basically jump up by 15%. Yeah, because we've gone through that customer experience as well. Yeah, okay, but it's been difficult. Yeah, it hasn't just fallen into our laps. We've had to work at it. Yeah, and we're still gonna have to work at it. We're not. It's not sitting back on our laurels. Especially Spa, especially golf, it's difficult. Yeah, but yes, it's
so great results overall for you, Nigel.
Sorry.
Great results overall for you, Nigel.
Yeah, I haven't shown you the back pages yet, but there you go. Yeah, but no, it is. We've worked very hard this year. We set out with a strategy, and rightly or wrongly, we've stuck at it. Yeah, and we haven't deviated from it. Yeah, so when somebody says to you, can we cut the food cost, can we take out this and put in paper napkins or whatever, the answer is no. You can't. Yeah, because you can't basically, I don't know, I used an example the other day, you can't basically lower your bedroom rate and take the bed away. Where'd you go? So it's a difficult one. It's a difficult strategy, and quite clearly, but it seems to be paying off. So yeah,
Good.
Oh, Robin, I've taken over your meeting. Sorry, mate.
That's all right. It's all right. That's what it's there for.
I'm back in podcast mode.
What's going on in the world? Yeah. Are you still doing your podcast?
No, JBS is basically. I still do JBS. Yeah, we still do one. I haven't got time. Yeah, a few guys are basically don't know that we used to do podcasts in the old days, basically back in lockdown, where we did a hotel recovery. It was called, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to people, God knows what, because I can talk forever, as you know. But there you go. Please.